Needs to get your clothes and your towel, and then you're all set to get washed up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Husband does pretty much everything for me. And if he didn't help me out of bed,
to use them.
Good. How about your knees? Let's bring your knees up. Come on.
I'm just really mad at myself right now because I've been working so hard.
Correct your eating habit.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm going to put you on high protein, low. So your weight now is down to 458 pounds because you have been on a.
Help me get powdered and get dressed.
Yes.
Do this list.
Oh, okay.
And if you hit this goal, I'll approve you for weight loss surgery.
Oh, okay.
Number 3. Gina Marie Crassley. Gina Crassley was 28 years old and weighed 604 pounds when she appeared on My 600 Pound Life. She lived in the sleepy town of Tuckerton, New Jersey with her wife Beth, as well as her sister and mother. It was a full house with one individual that was Gina. So what sickness did this 28-year-old have? A food addiction. The food Gina had been eating her whole life had left her a slave to it, and a bedridden young woman who was unable to reach her full potential.
Marriage that I want because of the weight that she's at.
Eating, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel happy.
Agree because I feel like she's given up completely.
And I'll get your bucket and get that ready for you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Needs to get your clothes and your towel, and then you're all set to get washed up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Help me get powdered and get dressed.
Yes.
It was clear Gina was struggling as a wife and her marriage was definitely on the rocks due to her weight. So what had brought her to a sorry state? The roots of Gina's dysfunctional relationship with food were set in a deeply troubled and sad childhood. As a young child, she got embroiled in a sibling rivalry and jealousy, all mired in the special attention her mother paid to her older sister, who was diagnosed with agoraphobia at a very young age. A severely neglected and overshadowed Gina chose to act out instead of blending into the background, putting her in a direct confrontation with her parents. As an almost automatic consequence of her rude behaviour and her acting up, she was set on a path of collision with her own father, who had some pretty brutal methods of disciplining her. Gina's upheaval and her unhealthy relationship within her own home led her to develop a codependent relationship with food from which she tried to glean some comfort. As Gina withdrew into her food obsession and gained more weight, she became a direct target for bullying and severe maltreatment by her father. She and her sister finally found their sisterhood, but it revolved around a common fulcrum: food. They started escaping their terrible home life by eating out, which exasperated the problem even further. By the time Gina turned 14, she was over 300 pounds. And that wasn't the worst. Her mother abandoned the girls to the not-so-tender ministrations of their father and left home, which pushed the girls further into food's deadly embrace. With her health taking a turn for the worse and her marriage about to crumble under her weight, Gina was desperate to put her life back on track, and for this very same purpose, she landed at Dr. Nalzaridan's clinic. Gina showed some patchy progress in the beginning, but by the time she came around for her second check-in, the 13-pound weight gain shown by the scale showed that she was not sticking to the program, and she was dropped by Dr. Now's program.
Well, that's normal to be nervous because you're going to surgery, you're not going to picnic.
Right, that's true.
Okay. I guess I'm moving in the right direction. But you showed me today that you're not sticking with it like you need.
I'm just really mad at myself right now because I've been working so hard.
Or getting weight loss surgery from me. You got it?
I got it. I understand.
They have to getting healthy today. But we can't move ahead with surgery if she's still gaining weight. 5 months ago, I was hopeful it was a sign that she was finally starting to turn things around.
Number 2. Tracy Matthews. Tracy Matthews was just 45 years old, but looking at her, you wouldn't be able to tell. She looked like an old woman, and her body, particularly her lower limbs, had turned into grotesque trunks with the maximum amount of 605 pounds stored within it. Suffering from lymphedema, Tracy was pretty much dependent upon her fighting-fit husband, Anthony. From getting up off the bed to having her food served to her, Anthony was a go-to man for having each and every one of her needs met.
It's miserable because the pain is just unbearable. It's just too painful. I feel trapped in my body because somewhere in there, my husband does pretty much everything for me. And if he didn't help me out of bed, and when I walk, it feels like my legs are being pulled out of my hip sockets.
It was clear that Tracy was in trouble, and her entire family was suffering along with her. It was her lymphedema which actually sent her running to the clinic. It was an act of desperation, taking birth from the realization that Tracy's time was quickly running out, and if she was to survive the next decade in her life, it had to be in a much reduced shell. So without wasting any more time, Tracy took herself off to Dr. Now's clinic. The journey was an uncomfortable and humiliating experience she spent in the back of her vehicle, laid out on a mattress.
It is probably bad, even though we pretty much only eat 2 or 3 times a day.
When did you develop this lymphedema?
I started noticing it like 2001. I just started.
Is the cause of this? Her upper body seems to be somewhat normal, but right now the fluid start deteriorating rapidly, and she's not going to be alive in a few years. Correct your eating habit. Okay? So I'm going to put you on high protein, low issues are, then you become a candidate for surgery.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Time a day, no snacking in between.
Okay.
At this point, you're not a candidate for surgery.
But it was well worth it, and she launched herself into her new adventure with great zeal. She was one of the few patients of Dr. Now who were able to bypass bariatric surgery and lose weight by adhering strictly to diet and exercise. She made very quick progress and was happily cleared for lymphedema surgery, which was a basic requirement if her legs were to be saved. Tracy's was a happy story which made us proud.
Which is very good. And your cellulitis is under control. So the next step, our best bet would be to start with removing this mass and good progress over past few months. And most of her weight is being stored in her lower, necessary for her. You're doing great, and I'm glad that you stick with the program.
Number 1, Liz Evans. Life had become a lost battle for Liz Evans, who weighed 721 pounds and had been bedridden for 10 years. The magnitude of Liz's struggles left a definite mark on us, as she was suffering a myriad of severe medical issues. The foremost of these was a lymphedema, which was strangling the blood flow to her legs and had left her imprisoned on her bed. So was it her medical problems which pushed her on such a devastating path in life, which left her house and bed bound? Liz's story was particularly heartbreaking and emotional. Her life was such a struggle that she managed to leave quite a mark on everyone.
Like, go ahead and grab your stick. Let's do about 10 warm-ups.
And I would have to move this leg off the bed, so.
Look at that, look at that. Look.
Okay.
No pain?
A little pain, but it's hard.
All right, off.
To use them.
Good. How about your knees? Let's bring your knees up. Come on.
A lot of fast food. And then that's what I have, because if I don't eat that, then.
Yeah.
Okay. So it gets hard not to order something on your plate? Mm-hmm. Okay. My mom does so much. And
She had been born with a congenital disability that made her leg bone curve out, which negatively impacted her quality of life. But it was the burdens put on this tender young child by the people around her which sucked the spirit out of her life. Her earliest memories of her life still filled with fondness and happiness as she remembered her father taking her to one place or another. As long as she was with him, life was gold. But at the tender age of 6, she experienced the worst betrayal from within her own family when she was carnally maltreated by a man. Ashamed and lonely, Liz tried to bury her feelings and her fear behind a staunch facade so she wouldn't have to face her father's disappointment when he found out what had happened to her. She let this wound fester, but when her father developed a drug addiction and left his family, she felt completely abandoned by the one person she'd put on a pedestal in her life. For years to come, she always looked to the door in the hopes that he would remember his daughter, but that day never rolled around. To deal with all the pain, Liz overate her way through her childhood and into adulthood. Stuck with the huge mess that had become her life, Liz turned to Dr. Now for showing her the light at the end of his tunnel. She wanted to take control of her future, and the starting point was the removal of her lymphedema mass from her legs. The mass made it hard for her to stand up, and being able to walk again was one of Liz's primary goals. Though the results she had sought from the surgery were to be able to move around to her heart's content with complete freedom, that particular goal was another uphill task, as it turned out after the operation.
Hey, Liz.
Hello, Dr. Nazarda.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing? I miss it. I've just been a little scared to look at it.
All right, let me look at it. Any temptation while she's here. So the big test is going to be whether she can make. So your weight now is down to 458 pounds because you have been on aircraft. You have everything you need to stand and start walking. So we get you going home today. You up?
Oh, okay then.
And I want you to show me that you can stick to the diet on your own. That is holding Liz back. But she can't afford to stay inactive. Every day do this, Liz.
Oh, okay.
And if you hit this goal, I'll approve you for weight loss surgery.
Oh, okay. Only be able to go home. I've been here for so long.
It seemed that Liz was the only patient on Dr. Now's program who happened to have developed a fear of walking due to how long she'd not been able to walk as a direct result of her painful conditions. She had to put herself on her feet and literally take baby steps to her recovery and become mobile instead of the invalid she had been for so long. She shed pounds via a strict diet and physical therapy. Liz lost enough weight to get her operation and stuck with the doctor despite his authoritarian personality. At the end of her My 600 Pound Life journey, she weighed 368 pounds and was well on the road to her recovery. That's all we have for you folks. Join us next time.